Yes, I am ready to start the stream. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille.
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
And welcome to the show. It's Sunday, the 26th of September, and where I am, it is definitely fall. So, but it's about 50 degrees outside, which isn't bad. It was supposed to, I believe, it was supposed to get down into the 40s and rain, and I was sweating that out because I've been doing work on the roof lately, as you well know, those who are regular followers of this show. So I'm going to give you the weekend weather first to get that out of the way.
Weekend weather!
And in my neck of the woods particularly, it is still currently 50 degrees outside. Sunrise at 7:07, and it's 5:16 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time right now. I had a fairly decent night's sleep. It's supposed to be sunny all day today. So today is truly going to be a Sunday. So happy Sunday to you. The title of the show is ROCKFLUX Live 9/26/21. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And isn't that true? So without further ado, as they may say, I'm going to bring up the weather map. And this is the precipitation map. This is the morning one for today, Sunday, going into Monday. And as you can see, that magical mystery rain thunderstorm that was supposed to come to my neck of the woods isn't happening. I mean, they're like Arizona, New Mexico. I think it might be their so-called monsoon time of year. I don't know. I used to follow some couple that built a house down there, and they used to collect most of their rainwater at a certain time of the year. I may be wrong, or I may be right, but I think it's this time of year. There's a critical fire weather possible thing in like Kansas, Oklahoma area. I've never seen that particular gray with white stripes before, but then again, I haven't been using this particular map that often. And up in the Pacific Northwest, we're just talking rain. Up in the Great Lakes area, Toronto, what they call upstate New York, New Hampshire, into New England, basically, we're looking at rain, and in a couple of spots, some heavy rain and thunderstorms, flash flood possible. And, of course, the southern half of Florida is looking like rain and thunderstorms. What's new there? I used to live down there. I swear we used to have a thunderstorm every day at the late afternoon. You know, it would just come in, thunderstorm, and then the sun would come back out. It's like clockwork. Anyway, that's your
weekend weather.
And I'm back. If I didn't say it before, I had a fairly good night's sleep last night. I woke up at one point, but managed to get back to bed.
Good morning.
So it's a good morning. You can still see I have a kind of a scruffy beard left over from the writer's thing. Hey, that's a thing we guys do that, you know, what can I say? It happens. Hunting season's coming up too as people grow a beard as well, though I have no intentions of going hunting this year, right?
Okay.
I mean, I was trying to hunt her down, but
really funny. Really funny.
yeah, those guys think it's funny. They think it's really funny. I don't know.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going fairly well, and I think with a little more caffeine in me, I'll be doing just fine. Remember why we're here. You know, the most important reason why we're all here is a very somber occasion, and that somber occasion is buy my frickin' book. Right there, it's going to get big on the screen all of a sudden. How's it growing? Then what? It's the new book. There's a link to it in the description below. It takes you to the Amazon print version. It only costs $9.95. Get the print version. Don't be a cheapo and get a Kindle version. Besides, the Kindle version looks like crap. It's something in the translation. I don't know. Can't figure it out. And I've also been noticing...
Your papers, please.
I rather than put the news on today, I pulled up this thing from... This is YouTube. You know, this is like if I went to YouTube. You know, they change these things all the time. And this is just like was on the first page of YouTube. And you can see they're talking about the thing up top. You know, it's just the world we live in. You know, I mean, the only things there that even slightly interest me. Well, I'm curious to see what's going on with that volcano, you know, in the Canary Islands. But there's an American Bandstand 1969, you know, full show. That would be interesting to watch just for the heck of it. And it's Elise Trow, if I'm pronouncing her name right, or Trow. She's pretty fascinating. She's that one who plays all the instruments and somehow puts them into some kind of loop, and then she just continues on. But she also does original work. But the rest of this nonsense, you know, when I say game over, do you understand what I'm talking about now? And that top row, man, I don't even know what the heck they're talking about. You know, I really don't. Bizarre. It's bizarre, to say the least. I mean, we're in this land.
Hello. 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 Hello.
This is insane.
I mean, it is gone. Talk about going over the deep end, man. We are way beyond anything like that.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
All right, I will. Yeah, so I got my coffee. My ROCKFLUX mug, which is all, the coffee's already getting it's no longer hot. Let's see if I can get anything out of here. To bring it more up to, temperature. That's a little bit better, I must admit. That menu, I burned out yesterday, and I finished that menu that I was talking about, though I have a couple of corrections to do in the morning. I was going to take a walk down and deliver it to the pizza shop that I'm doing it for, but I decided that since it didn't rain last night, I'm going to put a second coat on my attic, this mesh that I put the first coat on the mesh. I'm not going to show you pictures of this. I'll probably show an after picture tomorrow. And then I think if I get back to looking at my local weather, there's a 30% chance of a thunderstorm on Tuesday. Maybe that'll go up, maybe it won't. Oddly enough, Monday, tomorrow, is going to allegedly, is going to be 77 degrees. And the overnight 63. So that's weird, you know. But then it jumps back down into seasonal fall weather where it's like high 60s and the nights are in the 40s, high 40s, mid to high 40s. So we're going to get that fluke day, which, assuming no fluke rainstorm comes in within the next 24 to 48 hours, that heat up there should give that 77 should make that attic pretty darn hot. and should dry out everything I do today. So, and the overnight's only going to be 55, which is fine for paint. As long as it's 50. If you're painting, you don't want to paint below 50. But otherwise, you're fine. Same with caulking. I mean, sometimes they tell you avoid freezing or whatever, but 50-ish is, kind of okay. I'm telling you that from having read many labels. But then again, don't take anything like that to the bank. Read the label. Read the instructions. Do that kind of thing. And as you can see, I've got more clothes on than usual because the heat went on. Excuse me. I apologize for that, but again, 5:26 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we've got, another month and 2 weeks or so until we set the clocks back. So fall ahead. No, fall behind. Right, I was right the first time. Set the clocks back. So anyway, that's that. Pretty much it. Thanks for joining in. I'll talk to you again. Bang. So, if you saw the card, title card as I call it, shocking beyond belief, and someone may say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with a lot of things. And I also have a couple of Trey Fergus photos for you later on in the show in a little while. We'll see if he tunes in at some point. We'll put him on around his time. But be that as it may, it's like looking at that YouTube, that snapshot of just like the front page of YouTube. And every time you go, you get a different one. At least I do. And the first one was even worse than that one. And I just passed on it because it was so bizarre. And then I thought, rather than put Google News, because that was even more bizarre, I was going to do a screen capture of today's Google News. And like I say, it's not as if I don't have empathy, because I've got actually too much empathy. People accuse me of that, In other words, I'm the type of person that's like, if somebody's like going through something, I'm like, I got to turn off a thing on a movie when it gets to a point that's uncomfortable. I'm serious. It's the way I've always been. So no, I feel too much for people. But, in terms of this webcast, I'm just trying to get comfortable on the most uncomfortable chair. They're still playing, they're blocking and deflecting with this story about this missing person is like the lead story, so that they could they're really doing their darndest to erase Afghanistan, erase the economy, massive inflation, erase what's going on, like I say, around the world, the socioeconomic geopolitics, from China to Africa to everywhere else, and the border particularly, to erase that. And they're pushing this what we used to call a so-called human interest story that usually would be at the end of the broadcast. And, and in other news, right, that usually would be the lead at the end of the broadcast, or deeper in the paper, for people following a story, a human interest story. But they're leading with this. And then when you look at this, this kind of insanity, who cares about Caesar 911 shorts, how to stop dog barking, why the ruling elite is anti-American? What is this guy talking about? There's something there about the Russia collusion. And then, of course, the thing that just won't go away. I mean, come on, man. as the dementia guy says. And then somebody putting their, doing the you-know-what strut, some swimwear collection. I mean, and you think when I say the former United States of America, as if that's some, heresy, this ridiculous, how could dare you? Come on, man, look at the pop culture. I'm sorry for using the hey man thing, but, or come on man thing. Some things you just stick with, at least that's one thing he's got right. When he's not pumped up on whatever drug they're giving him, why don't they give that to other people, right? One day he's like slobbering from the mouth and he's going, and then the next moment he's like in a 3-piece suit giving some kind of speech. But then he just droops down and the press starts asking questions and he runs away or stumbles away, walks away like a frail person. He's being pumped up with some kind of drug. It's crazy. So that's the shocking thing. So, okay. All right, Trey, good morning. Again, for other people. So, yeah, I wanted to show you guys something. I picked up a couple of photos. This picture Trey took yesterday, the beach down Carolina way. And I just, and I thought this was a good image, for a number of reasons. That, you've got, well, you can't see it, but there's some older guy jogging on the beach. But, it's the idea of this time of year, it's not summertime, it's fall, but it's so nice to see people out, on the beach. It's just, it just reminds us that all this darkness that's going around, the world is not, it's not everywhere, So just no matter what I get into, and how negative things may seem, remember there's always pockets of sanity. It's not, everything is not.
This is insane.
A lot of things are just beautiful, and that's that idea of, beauty's in the eye of the beholder I was trying to talk about as well. And, so you take this other picture, here's another picture Trey took yesterday, sunrise picture. And again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And if you're willing to see nature as it is, then you can divorce yourself, right, from the nonsense that's going on around us. And that's kind of what I was trying to bring home and drive home. And Trey does a good job with these pictures. And that's the whole thing. So you can live a life of, getting caught up in this crazy world of, YouTube, myself included, and the news and all that stuff. Or you could say the heck with that, and you could just look at, and go out there and get out there and enjoy life. Go for a walk on the beach if you live near the beach. Go for a walk in the woods if you live near the woods. Or if you're just in a city, go into a park. I notice more and more people are being able, I don't know if it's just people just not paying attention, ignoring what they're saying or not. But I'll get to the title card, shocking beyond belief. But, you know, I was talking yesterday about, I went to this place, had this pulled pork sandwich because a friend of mine wanted to go there. And it's not something I normally would do, but I did. And it was, you know, it was good. I haven't had a pulled pork sandwich in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. I don't know. I mean, it's just not something. But it was good, you know. And anyway, but I'm saying, yeah, people weren't wearing any of the, you know, blah, 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 you know. And I'm in like pretty much in an area where it's, you know, supposedly, you know, it's in big time in effect, and they're practically,
Your papers, please.
you know, into that kind of thing. So, you know, you have this shocking beyond belief idea, but it goes hand in hand with what I was saying, is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Is that then, you know, in contrast, the shocking beyond the belief world that we're living in with this, you know, and these, you know, this isn't particularly some glamour shot. You know, these are everyday, regular people just outside, you know, enjoying the planet that we live on, you know, just everyday people, all shapes, sizes, ages, whatever, you know. It's a beautiful thing. I wish I was one of those people. So it is possible to live in this shocking beyond belief world, country, and certain places, while at the same time, you know, at any given time, there's keep pushing the wrong things. I apologize. At any given time, there's a beautiful sunrise, right? And you know, or it's like when I go out into my backyard and it's so overgrown. I mean, it's so overgrown. I've got a couple of messages of people saying, "Why aren't you showing? Where's your garden video?" It's like there is no garden video. It's gotten completely out of control. It's overgrown, and I mean, completely overgrown. It's a jungle back there. And I know it drives one of my next door. I only have one next door neighbor because the other side's a doctor's office. But I know it drives that person crazy. But it's not like I intrude on their property. But I mean, you know, this is a person who's like cut down these beautiful, beautiful things that were growing in her yard, and has turned it into this. And it would be different if it was like a beautiful yard, but in the back of her yard, there's old canisters of, you know, from, I don't know, welding gases and tires used, you know, old tires. And I mean, it's like a junkyard, but like she mows the lawn twice a week and has gotten rid of any sign of anything green besides this over manicured lawn. I mean, she's got mental problems, but you know, what can you say? So, but I don't think it's, when I say jungle, my yard, when I go out there and like today, you know, cause it's 50 with that, and that's cool. You know, it was 40 some degrees the other day, but I mean, even in the 50s, you go out there, it's a little cool. And so after this show, I'll go out, and as I walk in, you know, in this like canopy, because like, you know, the growth is on both sides and it's a fairly thin yard. And I breathe deeply this cool air, right? And it's all this oxygen coming out of these trees and shrubs and, you know, grape plants and Rose of Sharon and grass that's grown higher than allowed to do its natural thing. It's this fresh air, and it's cool outside, and it's like, and it's invigorating. It's the same as someone walking along the beach, you know. It's the same deal, you know. So, you know, that ocean air, the salt air, you know, that thing. And there's certain times I've lived at both, East and West Coast and the Gulf. So I've experienced every waterway, and I've been up at the Great Lakes. I've been on the coast of Lake Michigan, Lake Erie. So I've experienced all the major waterways, and certainly, many a lake, and stream. And, it's all a similar thing, and it's this beauty. And of course I've been in the mountains and, every other place in between. I mean, it's not going to get in. This isn't going to be a travel log show. We've had many of those. But yeah, beauty's in the eye of the beholder in that regard, just as well as, the way someone may use that statement as far as, talking about, everything is beautiful, everyone is beautiful, that sort of way too, as well. So, yeah, this world, this country, and what's going on may be shocking beyond belief. But at the same time, I just wanted to balance that off, by saying, yeah, it's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful planet. It's a beautiful country. And there are a lot of beautiful people out there, despite all of the crazy, insane madness that's going on around us. I mean, those of us who have an appreciation for beauty may be in the minority. I mean, I don't know. It could be a silent majority, but it's starting to seem more to me as if it might be a minority. I mean, especially when you bring, into play the pop cultural aspects of it and you look at the numbers. Remember, I'm a ratings guy. So I look at the numbers of sales. I look at the numbers of how many viewers are watching a certain thing. As I've said 1,000 times, everything that is in some high visibility position on a shelf or on television or on radio or on social media is in that position because it's some kind of moneymaker. It's a revenue. It's bringing in some revenue stream in some way, shape, or form. You don't do something if it's use these mediums that these $1 billion mediums. You don't waste them on something that doesn't bring home the bacon, so to speak. And that's why my show gets one view. Okay, because it's not bringing home the bacon, all right, or the pork sandwich, pulled pork sandwich. So that's the theme, and it almost seems like it's a clash to say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and and then it's shocking beyond belief. But it's really not. There's a certain contrast there that, is key. And that's what I want to talk about today. That's like kind of the themology, of this show, if there is such a word.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah. So I'm not in a bad mood. So, excuse me, but I am going to clear my throat probably about 10 more times. But I will endeavor to get through this topic, which is not the greatest. This is a menu that I've been working on. Let's see, graphically. I've got a couple notes on there, some things I have to add and change. You guys got chicken, boneless wings. The prices of things have gone so far up. Like, let's see if I can put this up. Look at this, like, chicken tenders. Or no, this is even worse. Or like the price of pizza $19.99, $13.99. When it says extra large 16-inch pizza, it's like somewhere down by my finger. And with a topping being like $1.99, which is $2. I'm so tired of these 99s. That's a lot of money. And I don't care. Maybe I sound like some old person or something, but whatever. I mean, but I do these things, and that's how I had this firsthand experience with stuff, because for so many years I did these publications and advertising and was on in entertainment. And so I had this exposure to watch through the march of time all of these changes that have come, right? Because I was the guy putting the, creating the print materials, the advertising materials, or being the guy behind the microphone, talking about something, or even recording a commercial in the earlier days. And so I've watched this. So it's what's happening now, whether we talk about the insanity that's going on, which is pure insanity. And the word, like I said yesterday, the word insane means nothing. It's so overused that it's become, they've taken any kind of impact out of it. But we're dealing with runaway inflation, a country that is no longer really a nation, a republic. It's a corporatocracy. And a world that's being run by an organized crime syndicate. And these are recurring themes on my show. And so it's shocking beyond belief. That's something people, that's one they don't say. You will hear this.
This is insane.
And you will hear this.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
But you're not hearing too many people saying it's shocking beyond belief. Though I'm sure there are some. And they would be right to say so. But yeah, when you're in a semi-good mood, sometimes it's hard to even talk about these topics. It's like looking at that beach scene, which I'll do once again. In other words, when you're sitting there, of course, these people using their cell phones. It's a classic capture there, Trey, that you got. The idea of the smartphone. Here, this couple in the foreground are at this most beautiful place ever, and they're, both heads are down looking into their phone. Now, they may be looking at a picture they took of the ocean, but still, it's like when you see at the concerts and everyone's got, the concert's in progress and everyone's holding up, their smartphone, recording the concert. And I'm going like, you're there. You're there. Why don't you just take in the show, take in the sound, the lights, the artist performing live, instead of having this so you can post it on your Instagram or Facebook, or, doing a short Facebook clip live. The other thing was, there were when I was on Facebook this morning to grab those photos from Trey Fergus, there was, he has some of these 3D type photos, which I can't really use on this show, but that's an interesting concept. There's a lot of developments now, in photographic technology that, that come over through the medium of either the smartphone or your desktop, laptop, tablet, whatever. And, well, if you have a smart TV and you're looking and you happen to have a Facebook app or a photo app that gives you that freedom to do that. I don't particularly have that. I don't have a smart TV. I have one of those Amazon, it's the latest one, the Fire Stick thing or whatever they call it. That has, you can talk to it, talk and ask. I don't use that much because I also have a latest generation Echo Dot thing. So I could say, hey, what's her name? What's the weather? What's shaking? But that part of technology is a beautiful thing, and I wish that was pushed more out there. But it's not as if that's not what people are interested in. When I say people, I mean the majority, not the minority. And that's why I'm trying to get at is that I think there's beautiful people out there. I know there are beautiful people out there. I know beautiful people. And, and beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But I mean, beautiful people, both physically and, and spiritually, or who they are. They're consciously beautiful people, beautiful beings, put it that way. And, and they number in the hundreds of millions, and on the planet, I'm sure there's billions of beautiful people. The only problem is there's 8 billion people on the planet, and like I was saying yesterday, with the influx of immigrants into this country now, where they're coming in by the several million a year now, and we've had a recent census, and some extracts of that have been released that show that it's somewhere around 326 to 330 million in the U.S., but the reality is there's probably 350 million people in the U.S., or there will be soon. People are just flooding in, and they're all over the place. And so out of that, percentage-wise, you have to think about, and I'm not criticizing anyone, migrating to a country or anything like that. That's not the point here. What I'm saying is that it's a numbers game. And if you're indoctrinated, if you're conditioned, like I say, they program your bioelectric brain, it's propagandized. Your subconscious, you can ask any psychologist. The subconscious, is programmable. That's just the way it is. That's why people go to see shrinks, to try to, it's a form of, it's why people who are into cults get deprogrammed. But a shrink is just basically a lesser degree of deprogramming, or it's trying to help you sort things out, and see things more clearly, the mystery of the brain. But your consciousness, those, and I still say, and this is just my personal opinion, that I believe there are soulless, if you believe, I want to use that word soul. I believe the word soul is interchangeable with consciousness. There's this thing, the hard problem of consciousness, the idea of the mind as opposed to the bioelectric brain that controls your android body. And I believe there are people that are walking around who are literally unconscious, soulless. Or do you ever hear, I don't know if it's a song or whatever, but do you ever hear the phrase blackened soul? It's like when people talk about the pineal gland, and they say your pineal gland, which is like your third eye, and they say your pineal gland is calcified. And when your pineal gland is calcified, you don't have that, you're not open as much to, to that greater, awakening, or a greater enlightenment of what reality really is. And none of whether you believe in, I'm not using any of these things. I'm using all of these things as example, but it's whether or not you want to get into any of those specifics. That's not the point. The point is the idea, the concept that whether or not it's a blackened soul a calcified pineal gland, or just a programmed somebody who's gone through years of indoctrination and is subject to propaganda, or is surrounded by, or is in a cult. Like I say, the cult of personality, which is politics. And so that, that the majority of people, I believe, are in that category. And so you say, and then, and there's these people who are in, who are coming from the same place as me, who see this and say, hey, these people are like, they're like in a cult, they're like, this is like a cult. They're acting weird. They seem like they're being manipulated. They're falling hook, line, and sinker for this propaganda, this crazy stuff. This is shocking beyond belief. We have to do something about it. And I'm like, you can't. You can't. And that's why, this is what you do about it. You go to the beach and you enjoy life, all right? Or go to the country, or go to a hill, a mountain, a lake, whatever. Like I was describing before when I lived in some of the cities. When I lived in L.A., we used to go on the top of, the Griffith Observatory. You have to go way up there. When you get up the top of Griffith Observatory, you can oversee L.A. And if it wasn't a smoggy, there wasn't too much smog or something, you could see clear, to the ocean. Now I lived in Malibu, and of course I lived in the up in the Upton Canyon, so I had a full view as opposed to being down on the beach. I was on the other side of the Pacific Coast Highway, or the PCH they call it, and so I had a view, 180 degree view of the ocean, unobstructed. And so I looked at that, and that was beautiful. That was my daily. I saw that all day long. But the same thing when I was in New York. I told the story yesterday when I used to be over at Williamsburg, Brooklyn, hanging out with these artists in this, building that I'm sure now has been gentrified and turned into condos. But at the time was just a bunch of artists, hanging out in these lofts. But we had a party on the roof, and we used to be able to look over the cityscape of Manhattan. And it was beautiful. And even though it was completely man-made, it was that cityscape, that beautiful, those lights, So whether you want to marvel at the achievement of mankind architecturally, or you want to marvel at the beauty of nature and be that, rolling hills, valleys, lakes, streams, oceans, parks, whatever. That's up to you, but it's there for all to see. And you can't, and despite whatever anybody says, oh, the climate, this, that, the other, it's like, you know what I've noticed? I've noticed things have gotten more beautiful in recent years. You should see the greenery in my backyard. 0.004 CO2, man, the plants really love it. And by the way, it is their world after all. It's not ours. We are not the primary life form on the earth. I've said that before many times. All you have to do is look out of an airplane. There's way more tree. I was just pouring coffee in case you're wondering what I'm doing. There's way more trees and plants and flowers, all right, than there are people. One could argue, I guess, it's the planet of the insects too, but down the wrong pipe, as they say. But, and it's funny how fragile the earth is in the sense of that, how dependent we are. Everybody knows that we're dependent on the honeybee. And I was glad to see this year that in my yard, with all the growth that I let go, and even though that neighbor just like chopped down these people that just don't like living things, that says something about a person's personality, and I don't mean to be critical, but I guess I do. If you don't like, there are people that, there are people who are in this area, okay, who would not go down to the beach or near the beach. Not because they can't afford to, rent or live or own one of those homes, up there on the left-hand side. Not because of that. Because it does nothing for them. It's like taking somebody to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They would be like staring at just like this couple in the foreground. They'd be staring at their smartphone. And saying, "Hey, where do you want to go for lunch?" While you're like admiring, the work of these great masters, artistes, right? People like that, right? And that's the same as even, like I say, and you could take it could be from the fine arts and architecture to just downright run-of-the-mill pop culture, to a rock concert, rap concert, whatever your thing is. And it's the same thing. You're going to see somebody really into it, enjoying the show, moving and grooving with it. And then you're going to look around, but the vast majority of everybody else is holding up these damn things. And I'm going, participate. What are you doing here? It's like you see it in the restaurants. I bring this up because, when several years ago, a lot of people were criticizing that. But now it's as if the infection, because these things have taken over, these devices, the smartphone, that, people have like come to accepting it. In other words, the spores have somehow entered their mind. So they've been conditioned, propagandized, indoctrinated, whatever. Their brain is programmed now to acceptance of the situation. It's just like people came to acceptance of this and acceptance of lockdowns and and they're trying really hard for
Your papers, please.
acceptance of this, right? And so that's, that's the case, that I'm presenting to you when I say the majority. Because it's, before, you could say something like that. Look at these people, you could be in a restaurant, bar type environment or something. And you could say, look at these people, they're all staring down at their smartphones, they're like, they're not even talking with one another. Why go to a restaurant with somebody if you're texting to your friends and they're texting to their friends? And, You used to say something like that and people go, yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Look at it. It's crazy. I can remember there used to be my favorite Irish pub, not here, in a different last place I lived. And I would sit at that bar because I was a fairly regular customer at that bar. And I can remember, when this thing really started to take over, and what used to be this, it was like kind of it wasn't a complete oval. It was like kind of like a half oval or maybe half rectangle, because there was a back wall, but it extended out rectangularly in this direction. So, the bar, the bottles, the cooler was way down at the one end, but, people could sit around, three sides of the rectangle, say. And I could remember that, and so you were facing inevitably, people on this side, let me get rid of this shocking then belief thing, because I'm not that. Not that. I don't know, man. Give me a break. Anyway, if you're on this side, and somebody else is on this side, this other side, you can see one another and you can converse because it wasn't a huge place. This was like the back bar. They had like several bars in this place. Actually, they had 3 bars in that complex. But this was like kind of the Irish pub part, where the regulars would hang out, particularly on like a Friday happy hours that, or a Saturday night. It was all like, you knew, if you didn't know them personally, you knew them enough to, the faces. Everybody knew the regulars. And then people would converse. And if a conversation came up or somebody said something, you could comment on it openly and they would accept it and, get back, there'd be back and forth. And people would buy each other rounds and drinks and stuff like that. And, and then gradually as this thing happened, because remember, this thing only began, really started in earnest to take over about 10 years ago, within the last decade. I mean, smartphone's been around a little bit longer than that. Facebook's been around a little bit longer than that. But I mean, it didn't really, start to take over, right? It's only been about 10 years. Now, if you're 20 years old, 10 years is half your life and you're only a 10-year-old kid, so it doesn't make any sense to you. But if you're 30, 40, 50 years old, you look at a decade and you go, that's nothing. In fact, you might consider this a fad, right? Because there have been fads that lasted that long, and then people moved on to something else. And I still kind of think it is a fad, I do. And most people disagree with me on that. But I remember, it started out where we all had the things, and we may have had them on the counter, the bar next to us, right, sitting there, and occasionally someone might pick it up or look down or something. But, gradually as this, it grew and took hold, eventually, and I stopped going to that place. I stopped going everywhere, really. Eventually, it would be like, instead of it being this lively, fun place, conversational, laughs, buying each other's drinks, eventually it became this. I have to pull it up. Well, you see my credit cards there, whatever. I have mine in a case. But it eventually became this. Everyone was looking down. And I'm thinking, it's over. Game over. And that's what that's about. Game over. That was the beginning of the end. It was the end of social, real social interaction. When social media, like the Patriot Act, they use these words, the complete opposite of what the thing is. Social media took over us being social. And so, again, like I say, I don't know particularly who that couple is there, and, you can't see their faces, so I'm not like criticizing an actual person. But, and if they're related to a friend of mine who took the photo, I apologize. But nobody knows who they are. But that's it. People just started looking down. and no longer, they no longer saw. Not that. I'm sorry. I have to go through a purging of my of this set. My setup here, because I have things. They were named something prior to my taking several weeks off to write the book. And so what I did was I just brought images under. So like, for example, this thing is under news, right? So I need to delete all of the titles of these things and rename it. Like this should have been named like Sunrise, So people stopped looking at that. And they started looking down. Artificial, augmented reality, right? And what I've said before, imitation of life is what it really is. It's a term people don't use. There was actually an album by a band called the Four Seasons that they put out. It was their experimental album. It was called Imitation of Life, I think, or at least that song was on that particular album. I don't necessarily recommend that album. It didn't really work. They were trying, that was like the era when like the Beatles had the White Album or Magical Mystery Tour, and the Rolling Stones had, At Her Majesty's Secret Service or something weird. Like everyone was trying to, and of course Pink Floyd, came out with Dark Side of the Moon, which really kicked all their asses, to tell you the truth. Definitely, and has stood the test of time. But at the time, everyone was trying to make this like, this seminal, this classic album type of thing, But it was good about it was that there was this competitive, effort among people in the music business industry or art, I hate to say it. I hate to say either of those words, business or industry, but the musicians, the artists, because I could think even Yes had an album, the one that had And You and I and stuff like that. In other words, a lot of the albums at that time were, you would put the album on, and they were albums. This was the era of albums, discs, vinyl, that you would put it on and you would listen to it from beginning to end. It wasn't just a collection. Like in the 60s, if you had 10 hits, right, 10 singles, you have enough for an album now. And so you released an album and it had, 10 singles on it. Today they call that, or afterwards they call those greatest hits type of things. But in the early days, an album was, if you had enough music, you put out an album. But then they transitioned into that period where people were actually creating albums. And they were, that was a good time. And there's like a lot of those. And I work to discover those right now, because I'm into exploring music, because I have access to so much music, not only my tens of thousands of songs that I have digitized, but that through these various services, subscription services that come with like, Echo Dot and that kind of thing, that you can find and rediscover things that you've forgotten about. And I've been doing a lot of that. Like I was listening to a while back, A War of the Worlds that Richard Burton narrated. The Moody Blues were like one of the major artists in it, but it was like a rock version of War of the Worlds, and it was an album. My roommate in college turned me on to that, I remember. And it just dawned on me the other day, and I was sitting eating lunch at my bar counter in my kitchen. And I just said to the voice assistant, hey, play War of the Worlds. Could you play the War of the Worlds album narrated by Richard Burton? And I was surprised because the thing, these things aren't really the greatest at understanding what you're trying to do sometimes, And for some reason it found it. And I was like, it was good that I made like a soup, a big, healthy soup, like stew that day. So I could just sit there, and it was real hot soup. So it was like, sit there and just take my time and get through like a lot of it. And then I kept it on as I came into this room and just turned it up louder and listened to it. But that was the whole thing. There was a while there people were making albums. I don't know how exactly I got on that tangent. Sometimes these shows, flow of consciousness is what it is, What can I say?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So, but that's a beautiful thing. And, and that's something that no matter, how much or how shocking beyond belief things are, you can, apart from having those experiences of the beauty of nature, that kind of thing. You can still listen to, classic music, right? Or cook some great food, right? And, enjoy that. It's that senses thing that I talk about a lot. You've got these 5 senses, really probably 6, your 6th sense. If your pineal gland isn't calcified. And you can, immerse yourself in those in those senses and enjoy life. So, that's the line that we're all, walking, and you have to be, that's the only way you could survive and thrive right now, is to be able to understand that and come to grips with that. Because otherwise you'll get overwhelmed and you'll think like, it's like the desperation of the political people. See, that's why I'm no longer political. I show you these ridiculous things, but everyone else, but people, and I cut the cord, and I encourage anybody else to cut the cord of cable and any of that stuff. And why anyone would watch the nightly news. The reason I stopped calling this the morning show was because, I didn't even want to be associated with the concept of the morning show, though it is a morning show. It's the morning show. And there are morning shows all over the world, and, I'm justified in that. I still have the morning show mug. It still is the morning show technically, but, I'm just going with ROCKFLUX. But game over, man. If you're caught up in that world, if you're programmed and you don't know you're programmed, and you are surrounded by people and you are just spending every living hour glued to this stuff, and you are walking in lockstep, right, to whatever command comes to you from this corporatocracy, that has taken over. And now we live in the former United States, and Western civilization has collapsed and has been replaced by an organized crime syndicate. And if you don't know that, or if you hear me say that and you say, that guy is crazy, man, that guy is wacky. And if you're laughing when I say that, it's game over for you, man. It's game over. If you don't understand the concept of socioeconomic geopolitics and how the world is really run, it's game over for you. Yeah. That's just the way it is. That's reality. You don't know what you don't know. It's above my head. And in the case of someone who's like that caught up in it, everything you know is wrong. Yeah. And so that's why I did my latest book is Then What? Right? So like people like us, who get it. See, we're already at the point is we know it's game over. We know you don't know what you don't know, and everything you know is wrong, right? And it's all shocking beyond belief, right? We accept that, but we also accept the beauty of, that we live in a beautiful world and there's beautiful people out there. But the question that we're asking going forward is, are you just going to sit around? It's like, then what? Okay, what do we do? How do you survive and thrive? Right? That's the key. And no matter you want to accept it or not, we are a minority and we are not going to convert. There's too much of these people. They're like modern day missionaries of sorts. But they're missionary. It's not a religious dogma they're pushing. It's like Save America, Build Back Better, the Great Reset. It's this team sport, right? Everybody's pit against each other, And it's like, forget it. It's game over. It's game over. You don't know what you don't know. And if you can't accept that, then, well, it's game over. I don't know even what else to say. Now, so I'm not speaking to you. There was an introduction to an Ayn Rand book that I've quoted in my book, one of my books. And I don't know. I don't know if it was this early thing that I did or not. But if it's in here, I want to read this to you. No. Let's see. No, wasn't in that one. I would have to start paging through all of my books to find it. Let's see. I'm going to try looking this up, and I hope this doesn't totally if for some reason I freeze up, okay, just fast forward. All right, because it's worth finding this. And so far, so good. Not there. Let's see if I can find this. Oh, come on. It's just really... Novels and works. Ellsworth, Toohey. I apologize for this. She has an introduction. I know I've quoted this. It just goes to show you how crappy, Let me say introduction. Maybe because I said intro. You can't use that. All right. Let's see. What it's doing is it's taking using the word as the introduction as if I'm asking for an introduction to like to introduce you to the book. And no, what I really want is her physical introduction to the book. I'm only going to waste another couple seconds on this. Let's see, introduction to the 25th edition. Can't find it. Sorry. The internet, right? The great and glorious internet, search algorithms, Google. Yeah, right. You can't find something. The thing exists. I'm looking for the introduction by Ayn Rand to the book The Fountainhead. All right. And I searched for it in various different ways of wording that. And it didn't come up. Anyway, she said something to the effect is that for these people, I have no time for them. Something along that line is what I was trying. But she was so eloquent about it, whether or not you're into Ayn Rand or not. The coffee has reached the point of being lukewarm. Saw a bug this morning. Hadn't seen a bug in a couple of days. Saw a bug today. Not here just now, but earlier. So, I figured out how to basically deal with that kind of stuff, but it's a lot of work. The struggle of life for someone who is not, and this is shocking beyond belief too. This follows through with this. I say this stuff because there are more people who are living lives of quiet desperation. The Dickens line. Than people realize. And those are the people that are unheard, unseen. You don't know about them. It's like, and it's the same with like this banning thing and stuff they do where it's just a modern form, North American form of disappearing you. In a society that's based on information technology and communications through social media, as they call it, or through technology. And when they rob you of, your ability to communicate, you are disappeared. You are a non-person. And then there are people out there that, for some reason or another, and they're not, and I'm not necessarily the poor, because the poor suffer, that's for sure, struggle. But some people are just, that's not it. There are some people who get by. Some people go to work every day, have money and stuff like that. But they live a life of quiet desperation. They're lonely people. They're not paid attention to. They may, have some infirmity, or they may not, have a certain look that is accepted, It's like I say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And, and they number in the millions, tens of millions, really. And globally, probably in the billions. Like I say, we're getting close to 8 billion people on this planet right now. And probably 350 million people just here in the U.S. of A., former U.S. of A. And so this mainstream media, which it still is, because mainstream media includes social media now. So forget about, it really, it kind of ticks me off, though I don't pay attention to these people anymore. I used to watch a couple of people on YouTube who used to refer to the media, like TV media and people like that, as the legacy media or, lamestream media. And for a while I was somewhat accepted that, maybe about a year or so ago. But I don't accept that anymore. No, it's the mainstream media. And that's the point I'm trying to make in today's show. That it is the majority. You see, they have taken control. Right? They're in charge. It's like I was telling somebody on the phone the other day, and they agreed with me. I said, that's why I turned on YouTube last night, and there was some rally by who, the last guy who was in charge. Okay? And the Save America thing. And these people are zealots, and it's like the whole idea is the cult of personality. Now, that's not to say that I have any, I'm totally against. I think that the clown in charge right now is a total puppet drugged up on some kind of like weird drug that lasts for about 20 minutes, the length of a speech, and then it like completely, right? The guy's like, it's almost like it's like some guy's got like bad coke or something. It's enough to like zing, right? And the guy's all talkative and like into the thing, but it's like, oh man, I need another line. That's a part of reality. Some people might not understand that, but yeah, that's exactly what's going on right now with this clown. But like I say, this other thing, there's people who have this cult of personality, and they think that there's going to be some kind of change, and they don't understand that it's game over. Right. And everything is wrong, and you don't know what you don't know. Well, I have no time for those people. Right? And they're the ones who are likely to call it lamestream media, legacy media, and there's all these new things that have cropped up, and they've got their own thing, and that's team sport that they're into. Right? See, it's their team. This isn't it's not a game. The game is over, man. If it was a game, it's game over. You're not going back, to some kind of like fantasy world. I don't want to get into it, but, Rome fell. Okay. End of story. Okay. We have Greek ruins, Mayan ruins, all right? The Egyptian dynastic period, right? It's over. British is no longer, right? The global empire. Spain conquistadors no longer exist, all right? The USSR, despite what the media tells you, is has been gone for 30 years. And Russia is a country that has half the population of the U.S. It's if they didn't have nukes left over from the old days, they would be like a nothing country. They're just used. They're used as the whipping boy because why? Because they're white. And so they could be criticized because, if Russia was like a country of color, they wouldn't be used. They wouldn't be like used as the whipping boy. Do you ever notice how Russia's always the enemy in all these shows, TV shows? It's always the Russians this, the Russian that, because they're white. You could pick on a white guy. It's weird. That this whole color wars thing too that the media and the politicians have created, trying to pit black against white, against brown, against yellow. I mean, come on, man. To quote the guy who's the ultimate marionette. It's all nonsense. It's all diversion. It's just like this thing that I showed you I didn't show you. Why I didn't show you the Google News is that this diversionary thing of this disappearance, right? There's something like, or what is a murder now, I guess. And, the point of the matter is there are 19,000 and change homicides a year. It's probably 20,000 because they haven't updated the statistic on the CDC in over a year or so. I think over 2 years. But it used to be 19,000 and change. So it's probably around 20,000 homicides a year, the majority of which go unsolved. Okay. And so for some reason, the mainstream media has been obsessed with one person, all right, out of 20,000 people. And last year they were obsessed with basically like one person out of 20-some thousand people. Maybe last year it was 19,000. I don't know. Now, however tragic that is, and like I told you, I'm an empath or whatever. You know what I mean? I have empathy and compassion for everything, Hey, I'll admit, like I say, it's like in my books and my show. I'm brutally honest. I could get a show and get choked up and watching some kind of drama, right? And get teary-eyed. I don't care. I don't mind admitting something like that. I have loved people and I have had a broken heart and have broken down in tears. Okay? I'm not afraid to admit that kind of stuff. A lot of other people are. I'm not afraid of that. That's reality. That's the way it is. So I have compassion. I have feelings. I have empathy for people. And I have empathy for families of people that have had loss. Right? But in what I'm trying to explain about is that when you use loss, someone else's loss, for your political or financial benefit, in the case of the mainstream media, it's part financial benefit, right? It's an ongoing story, episodic story. Tune in to find out the latest. See if we're going to catch this guy that might have done this thing, the boyfriend or whatever. Stay tuned during the commercial break. We've got some more information coming, a special report coming up from so-and-so who's on location down in wherever, right? But it's also political because they want to deflect away, as I said earlier, from Afghanistan, from the border, from the economy, right? From the supply chain disruptions that everybody knows about, right? You can't get a lot of stuff right now. And the stuff you get, the price is going up, right? And you've got all these people coming in the country by millions. And they're looking for jobs, looking for something to do. What are they going to do? There's nothing to do. And at the same time, you've got the powers that be in big tech creating all kinds of new fantastic robotics and AI and algorithms that are taking away all the jobs. Right? You got heavy equipment, farming equipment and stuff. You don't need people picking strawberries or something. You don't need migrant workers. In another couple of years, there won't be a need for a single migrant worker. Right? Pay attention. Look at some of the machinery they've created. I mean, look at stuff Elon Musk is doing and like that robot he's coming out with next year. And then self-driving cars. No wonder the truckers are getting crazy. Teamsters. Because they want to take, these crazies want to basically take the long hauls and have those self-driving, trucks. And what they're going to do is they're going to put basically a Tesla robot in the driver's seat. That's the plan. The window's going to come down, and that's how they go through the toll booth. This robot's going to put the ticket out or something. Or they have the sticker that automatically just lets them pass. But they'll be delivering the pizza. There'll be a robot knocking on your door. Take a look at Elon Musk's video where he announced the robot. And that's what they're going to send to Mars, too, in 4 years. You mark my words. But anyway, no. It's game over, man. And this team sport is ridiculous. And I don't care how many times I have to say this, but you have to think about one thing. When you donate money to a campaign, that money goes to the mainstream media. And that makes those multimillionaires. Everybody on mainstream media is a multimillionaire. All right? Anyone on camera. Do you know that? See, you don't know that. Some people don't know that. I've talked to people about that. And they go, oh, no, they don't make that much money. I said, some of those people make $20 million a year or more. And, oh, no. Yeah, yes, they do. In like secondary markets, they're making six figures if you're on camera. Right? The median wage in the U.S., forget about people talking about getting $15 an hour to flip a burger, right? The median wage in the U.S. now is somewhere in the 60 to 80,000 range, right? That basically is like, that's like a starting salary, for somebody, a qualified individual in a corporate environment. Now, think about that. Okay, so, and, think about the idea of somebody making like 80 grand, okay? And you might say, well, that's nothing. All right. Well, let's look at my life. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance, I say this all the time, that's why I'm laughing. My mortgage, taxes, and insurance, right? I mean,
This is really funny. Really funny.
My mortgage, taxes, and insurance.
This is really funny. Really funny.
Is basically under $200, right? I mean, that's the truth. It's the cold-hearted truth,
Okay.
Now, if I were bringing in $80,000 a year, all right, but let's just say $60,000 because that's $5,000 a month. Okay, so let's lowball it, right? $5,000 a month, and my mortgage, taxes, and insurance, all right, are less than $200 a year.
This is really funny. Really funny.
Think about it. Okay. All right, that leaves me $4,800. And then you've got internet and some utility bills and blah, blah, blah. My cost of living is less than $1,000 a month. So if I were making $5,000, I got $4,000 extra every month, right? Or basically $4,800, or $48,000 at the end of the year, right? And people don't, I mean, that's just because I figured out how to live this way. Now, I'm not saying everybody could do that, but if your cost was double mine, you'd have an extra $24,000 a year, right? However you want to look at it. The point of the matter is, if you're, you have to, you got to figure out stuff. That's another reason to get my book, Then What? I have a little, because I put the worksheet in there, likes, dislikes, whatever. And there's also a sheet that has like a household budget where you can look and really see in front of you how much, you're spending, what your cost of living is. And like I said, you can write it in the book or make a copy of those two sheets that are in there. Or you can use those as a guide and use something like Excel template, or like if you have a Mac, you can use Numbers. That's what I use, Numbers. To check my monthly budget to see if I'm on target. Live within your means. But yeah, people don't get it, and so the idea is that, first of all, we live in a beautiful world. All right. So don't look down, up in the left-hand corner, there's another couple, and it looks like the guy in the blue shirt looks like he's looking at his smartphone too. Right. It's like and there's a guy, directly above the hat of the couple that are both looking at it. And it looks like he's like kind of looking down. it seems to me that the coolest person or group on this is the woman holding the baby, who are both just looking out at the ocean in this particular picture. Of course, that's just my 2 cents, And of course, they're not looking at that because that picture is a daytime picture. But this is what Trey sees, the photographer saw in the morning yesterday, and I'm sure he probably was out there again today. So it's a beautiful world out there, But like the weird thing is, is this kind of crazy? I'm going to like enlarge this thing. Okay. So let's just look at this. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to comment on it. But, the top tier, right? This endless thing. I have no idea. Does anyone really know? No one knows. They tell us these things. Nobody knows. They're reported. And then look directly below, to the right of the American Bandstand thing, which is like the only thing. And there's a Columbo thing there, which I guess is funny, But I mean, next to the bandstand thing, oh, man. Shocking beyond belief. Shocking beyond belief. But beauty's in the eye of the beholder. It's 6:46 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it's nice. It's quiet here. The sun doesn't rise here for another 15 minutes or so. So it's as dark as the night's going to get, so to speak, even though it's early morning. The temperature has just dropped to 48 degrees. You see, a lot of people don't realize that. This is the biggest argument against man-made climate change. Like people who don't understand that the sun brings us heat, heats the planet. See, we're at the point now where it's so close to sunrise, all right? But it's so far away. It's the farthest distance away, time-wise, from when the sun was last visible in the sky. Here, okay? If you're at the coast, it might have already started to come up, all right? But where I am. So the temperature dropped 2 degrees. Remember when I started the show, it was 50 degrees out my door. It's now 48 degrees, you see. It may drop 47 in the next 10 minutes. It may go another degree. And there's people that just are so out of touch with reality. Like they're not in touch with nature. They don't experience life, the sensual experience of life, right? They don't know, what this, where is it? I'm so sorry I keep bringing up the wrong thing. They don't know that ball in the sky not only gives them UVB rays, which is like nature's sanitizer, that it gives you vitamin D and boosts your immune system, that it allows photosynthesis in plants and trees and crops that we eat and need to survive. All right? And it gives us warmth and lights up the sky and is part of the cycle of life that even affects our sleep patterns and everything else. Okay? That's why the ancients, worshiped the sun as a god, small g. And yeah, it's just dropped 2 degrees because the night is as dark as the night's going to get. And sunrise isn't until like 7:04 or something here. So it's still exactly 15 minutes away. It just hasn't broken through. There's no sunlight. And the longer the sun's away, the darker it gets. You know? And that's what ROCKFLUX is all about. And we're going to get into these things because the sun is going through some serious there's some grand solar cycles we're in the middle of, and earth cycles. And we have a weakened magnetic field and all kinds of other crazy things. I mean, you want to get into shocking beyond belief, I'll give you shocking beyond belief. But like I was looking for that quote by this Ayn Rand woman, is that I no longer have time for these people that are caught up in politics. You know, I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about this stuff going forward anymore. I mean, it is game over. All right? So stop talking about the game. All right? Your team lost. Technically, all of our teams lost. Right? Is the way it really, you know, and that's what people can't seem to wrap their noodles around. All of our teams lost. It's not one-sided. It's not red, blue. It's none of that stuff anymore. All of our teams lost. We lost. The game is over. Game over. And there's no rematch. Okay? There's no new season coming up. Okay? That's it. Game over. All right? The teams have disbanded now. All right? The leagues have disbanded. The arenas no longer exist. They look like the Coliseum. You can't play a game there. But there are still people out there trying to pretend as if there's going to be change and a comeback and a save this and a build back and a great reset and all this craziness. But it's game over. So stop it. And I'm not going to waste any more time on that in the coming episodes. And if you have any sense, anything left inside of that bioelectric brain, or if you are a conscious being, you know, and there's some kind of spark of consciousness in there, you know, if your blackened soul has just the slightest bit of light somewhere inside of it, you know, come to this realization, wake up in reality, you know, to reality. And live your life. Survive and thrive. Otherwise, you know, the future is going to be a nightmare for you. You just don't understand. It is going to be a frickin' nightmare.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
And you know what happens when you support these so-called candidates, these cult of personality heroes?
All your life you will remember this night, and you'll know whom you have turned loose upon the world.
Yeah. Stop it. Stop it while you're ahead. You are funding the very people that have destroyed Western civilization and what was once the United States of America. With every dollar you donate to a political campaign, every time you watch the news, okay, you're being recorded as a viewer, or if you watch a YouTube video about something like that, you are enriching the very people, because that view counts, and that view times thousands, if not a million or whatever. All right? You are the people, the person because you might have been just think about it. It's like in any instance, there's always one person that reaches the, that reaches the point that makes the difference, right? Right? You could have 1 million people doing something, but it's that last one, right? It's like, tipping a scale, right? There's a bunch of people on some kind of, teeter-totter thing, right? Well, it's only one person is going to be the final one that tips the scale, tips it. And you don't, for all you know, you're the one. You're the one that brought down Western civilization. You're the one that destroyed America. And now what, do you have some kind of guilt or something? And you think, I'm going to give another couple bucks. I'm going to support this thing. I'm going to watch these things. Do you have is your life so empty? Right? Is your life so frickin' empty? Go to the beach. Go to the mountains. Look out your backyard. Enjoy life. Have sex with somebody. Right? Listen to some good music. Taste some good food. Understand, use your senses. You're a human being. You weren't meant to be living in augmented reality, artificial intelligence, right? Caught up in the medium is the message, as McLuhan said. We're wasting your time, man. And besides, you don't know what you don't know. You're watching this stuff, believing this stuff to be true. You don't know. How do you know? How do you know? Right? How do you know any of this stuff? Right? How do you know? Do you know? You work for that company? Companies? Right? How do you know? You don't know what you don't know. Get the shirt. Wear it. Wake up some other people. Because the fact of the matter is, as it says over there in the corner, everything you know is wrong. And you need to be getting to the point of my latest book, Then What? So you're so far behind now. The problem is people are so far behind. In other words, there are people that don't know that it's game over. The game is over. Like they don't get it. The game has long been over, man. The game's been over for a while now. Long time. And they don't know that you don't know what you don't know. They don't know that the world's being run, socioeconomic geopolitics is being run by an organized crime syndicate. People don't know that, right? They're hiding, they've got this story, this news story that's blocking, and deflecting away from Afghanistan. But people didn't even know Afghanistan is the number one producer of poppies, of heroin trade. People don't know that the cartels are in charge and are basically making money and profit on these people coming over the border and all the horrific things that are happening to these poor people. You don't know that. You don't know what you don't know, right? Everything you know is wrong if you're watching television, if you're a part of social media. I'm not talking if you're watching your kid, some kid's video or pictures from your family album. That's a different story. All right? You know what I'm talking about. If you're caught up in the nightly news and you're watching The View and the morning shows on the network TVs or cable TV shows, and you're watching these rallies and these campaigns and these speeches and all this other stuff, you don't know. The game is over. It's over, man. And I know this is shocking beyond belief for some people, and that's why I got one viewer. My coffee's cold. For the third time, I believe, Well, get a mug, by the way, a ROCKFLUX mug. But my coffee has become colder than room temperature. How is that possible? Through physics, laws of physics. There's no ice cube in it. When I put that, taste it, it's colder than the normal state of the room. If I put my finger in it, it feels colder than my finger does. Right? There are things in this world, Horatio. So, wake up to reality, folks. You know? Wake up to reality. But beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and it is a beautiful world, and you can survive and thrive through this. But you have to come to acceptance. And that's why I encourage you to get this book. That's when I'm doing these shows. I'm really pushing this book. I'm pushing Then What? I'm pushing it. And I'm pushing the print version. Because the algorithms of the digital versions, not because of something I did, all right, because of the way their limitations of these people making 6-7 figures at these companies, these tech companies, they have failed me in, with their software programs. And so the digital versions basically have flaws. And people are looking at me. That doesn't make sense. I've seen other ones that are fine. Yeah, through publishing companies and people who have, are tied into something and are doing this stuff and spend, thousands and thousands, if not more, of money to do a thing. That's a whole different story, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about the regular average person. And that's the thing you don't realize. You are worshiping, these, what I was calling yesterday, these American gods, the small g. Right? The cult of personality. Whether it's a media person, a political person, a tech, like these in these great industrialists type of people, or these bureaucrats, people from the World Economic Forum, that Klaus guy, pushing the Great Reset. And like I say, they compete with the great dictators of all time. This is an organized crime syndicate running the world. Scared somebody away. But I want to hear it. That's why this is this show. Whoever heard of anyone getting no viewers, 3 viewers, 4 viewers, even a dozen viewers on YouTube? Impossible. There's like 1 billion people on YouTube. Worldwide. At any given time. Or other parts of the world. The sun has just come up. Here. But it's, in other parts of the world, it's daytime. So anyway, that's my Sunday sermon, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it. Good morning. So I'll maybe talk to you tomorrow. We're just taking this day by day right now. Thanks for watching. Visit TonyCaravanLive.com, ROCKFLUX.com. This is the ROCKFLUX YouTube channel. You can see a picture of my book on the screen, Then What? It's available at Amazon. There's a link below this video, and there's also a link at TonyCaravanLive.com or ROCKFLUX.com. And, of course, I have all kinds of really cool stuff. Not all kinds of, but a lot of several cool things, that great solar stuff that'll help you through the coming winter storms or any kind of power events or things like that that could, do happen from time to time. So get with it, folks. Come on, support this channel. Spread the word. And if you don't, care about doing that, if you don't care about me, and if you don't, at least at the very least, buy the print version of the book, then what? Okay? Can you do that? Or get yourself a ROCKFLUX mug too while you're at it. And maybe a game over cap or a, you don't know what you don't know t-shirt. Right?